Guess what? I finally bought a new van. Ow. Now before I show you my new van, let me catch you up a little bit with what's been happening with the business. So if you've been following the channel, you'll know that 5 months ago, I quit my job to start a waste removal business. And the only vehicle I've had at my disposal in that time is my transit van. So every day for the last 5 months, my transit van has been hauling awkward and heavy loads, and it's definitely starting to feel the toll. Right, first things first, the tyres, they're pretty worn, they need changing. The brakes, they work part-time, it's 50-50, you slam and you hope, that's pretty much it. The electrics have also developed a mind of their own. So whenever I've got my hazard lights on, this front LED just flickers like mental. This side's fine, but that side just seems to be going a bit mental. But not only that, I've noticed when you're inside the cab and the hazard lights are on, this drivetrain fault light comes on as well. Now that only happens when the hazard lights are on and the engine's running. Another couple of faults whilst I'm sat behind the wheel. My horn stopped working. Now, this was MOT 2 months ago and luckily it was working then. About a week after the MOT is when it stopped working, so that's a little bit lucky. Also, the fuel gauge is currently showing between 1/4 and 1/2. When that shows 1/4, it can be anywhere from 1/4 of a tank to empty. Ask me how I know. That's another thing as well. Whenever I turn the engine off, it vibrates like mental. It feels like you're driving a wheelchair over a gravel driveway, to be honest with you. But I think the most recent thing that happened is the final straw for this van, and for me, and for my patience with it. So I was at a job the other day, filling the van up with waste, just as normal. Come to finish the job, come to close the van, that's definitely not supposed to be like that, is it? And you can probably tell from back there, the gap on this side is much bigger than the gap on this side. And I don't know how it's happened, to be honest with you. It wasn't a particularly windy day, it wasn't a particularly heavy load that I loaded, so I opened the doors, put the waste in. When I went to shut the door, it just wouldn't shut. And I thought maybe these bolts were loose here on this hinge, so I gave that a go, just tightening them up, but I actually ended up snapping my spanner. So I've come to the conclusion that this hinge is a little bit Louis Walsh. It's a little bit bent. Now I could try bending it back and putting it back into the position that it should be, but I think, knowing me, I'll probably just make things worse. So let me show you my temporary solution. It's incredibly frustrating, this. So this is my solution. Does it work? I'm going to say yes. And I've just realised my phone's in there. So I think it's fair to say this van is only going to live so long. There's only so long it's going to limp from job to job like this. And that is why I bought a new one. Let's go check it out. And this is the newest purchase. So I've finally bought myself a Luton van with a working tail lift. I mean, I've actually got no way of verifying if the tail lift works at the minute, for reasons that will become apparent, but I've been told by the previous owner it definitely works. And before we get into what's actually wrong with the van, because there is some things that's wrong with it, let me tell you a little bit more about it. So, it's a Peugeot Boxer, 2013 plate, on 105,000 miles, I think it is. Part service history, pretty clean, to be honest. I think the main reason why I bought it is because the back is easily twice the size of my transit van, and it's obviously going to be much more convenient and cost effective when taking stuff to the tip. And under the bonnet we have a 2.2 litre diesel engine nothing special to really look at. I think it produces 130 brake horsepower and 320 newton meters of torque, which isn't too bad. It's going to need it, to be fair. Being a Luton van, it needs to pull the weight. Having done a little bit of research online, I do think this is the same engine as what's in my Transit van. I think it shares the same 2.2 litre diesel, which is good because it's a timing chain, there's no AdBlue requirement, and this is a Peugeot after all, so having a Ford engine can only be a good thing, because it did worry me buying a Peugeot van. They're not exactly notorious for reliability, are they, the French? But first impressions of the van, I like it. Yes, it's filthy and it needs a clean, but I think some soap and water and it'll come out lovely, to be honest with you. So, what's the story in here? Let's have a look inside the cab and see what's going on. It's pretty much the same story. It's filthy, but it's clean, if you know what I mean. It's just filthy. And there is also some signs of some foul play going on in here. And I have been informed by the previous owner about that, because it's been sat for so long. That window there has actually been smashed twice, and it's been broken into a couple of times, this van, which is a little bit unfortunate. But that's because it's been sat here for 6 months and it hasn't moved. So let's get into what's wrong with it and why it hasn't moved in 6 months. So first things first, it's got a flat battery. It is dead as a donut. It's been parked up for 6 months, but that's not the reason that it's dead. Apparently it died before it got parked up. So the previous owner had to change the battery because the battery drained on it. So he replaced the battery, fit a new one, all was good for a couple of days. Lo and behold, a couple of days later, the same problem. The battery drained and he was left stranded at the side of the road. So he got the van recovered home and then got a mechanic to come out and diagnose the problem. And he diagnosed that it was a faulty alternator, which does make sense because obviously the alternator is in charge of charging the battery and making sure there's enough juice in it. The second problem, it's going to need a full service. It's been sat for 6 months and it hasn't moved. The brakes might be seized, the oils probably need replacing, maybe the fuel as well. So there's a few problems to take into consideration with this van. This door doesn't lock and this window needs replacing correctly. As you can see, it's already been replaced because it's actually been broken into a couple of times. But it's been replaced quite poorly and it needs replacing properly. This door doesn't lock. I actually bought the van a couple of days ago and it's been sat outside the previous owner's house waiting for me to get recovered. And I've noticed in that time I've not been able to lock this door. So for the last 2 days I've been sleeping a little bit funny, wondering whether someone's going to break into the van again. But I don't actually know why they broke the window, thinking about it now, because if the door's unlocked then there was no need to break the window. Another little problem with this van, the back of it, it's full of waste at the minute. So the battery died on the previous owner just after completing a house clearance and he didn't get a chance to empty it. So there's about 2 tonne in the back of this van which I need to get rid of as soon as it's back on the road. That is the first job, take it straight to the tip and empty the waste out of it. I think the most annoying problem is I can't actually get in the back to have a look at the waste either because the battery's dead, isn't it? So the tail lift won't open and close, so I'm unable to actually get it emptied of the rubbish as well before it goes to the garage. I didn't want to have to pick up the new van and take it straight to the tip. I wanted to get it on the road straight away, but it's just a little bit annoying. It is what it is. Can't do anything about it because I can't get into the back of it. Now the last 2 problems with this van is there is no logbook and there is only a part service history. Its service history goes up to 35,000 and it's currently on 105,000. So the last 70,000 miles are a little bit of an unknown for this. It has been serviced though, because it wouldn't be running, would it? There's no van going to run for 70,000 miles without an oil replacement at least, so. And with the logbook, the previous owner of this van is actually a friend of mine. I wouldn't have bought it if not, so I'm almost certain it's not a stolen van. But yeah, you should never really buy a vehicle without a logbook unless you know the owner. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it just yet. I will tell you that in a little bit. I want to get it back from the garage first and find out how much it's going to cost me to get fixed, how much it's going to cost to get recovered, to get insured, taxed, and then of course the purchase price of the van. I'm going to go through all that a little bit later. But for now, I'm going to sit in my van and wait for the recovery truck to arrive, because it's getting recovered this morning and going to the garage finally after a couple of days of waiting. Look at that, getting recovered, going to the garage. My man's looking after us. So if you've got a 3.5 tonner that needs recovering in the Yorkshire area, give this chap a call, they'll sort you out. You've done this before, haven't you?
Yeah. All the time. Get used to it, don't you?
That's it. Yeah, at least the brakes haven't been seized.
Yeah.
Oh. At least it's rolling freely. And that is it. The van is loaded and ready to go to the garage. Nice. So the van is now at the garage, and hopefully they're going to get back to me a little bit later with some good news. So yeah, they're going to give it a really good service, replace the alternator, hopefully not have to replace the battery, and check everything else over for me, because obviously it has been sat for 6 months and I wanted the van to be checked thoroughly. And hopefully they don't come back to me with a massive list of problems, but I have a feeling that's probably going to happen, to be honest with you. Right, anyway, how much did I pay for the van? Because I know you're probably all wanting to know. Well, I paid £4,500 for it in its current condition, which I don't think is too bad, because of a Luton van in the same condition that's running is probably worth around 7,000 or 8,000. Providing it doesn't have any more problems and I haven't bought a lemon and it does actually run, I should have a good deal. So if you want to find out if I bought a lemon or if I have actually bought a working van, you'll have to subscribe to the page and look out for part 2 that's going to be dropping very soon. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. See you later.